Now, most people will agree that sex feels good, but then you will find people who really don't like sex. Matter of perspective. Sex, just like anything else, simply is. It's neutral in its presentation, in its existence, but what makes it positive or negative is based on the level of intent and the vibrational interaction of those who utilize the act. Sex can be a beautiful way of bonding, strengthening our relationships, raising our kundalini energy, so to speak, raising our vibration, and of course, to propagate the species. But of course, the negative side of sex is using it in a way to numb pain, to feed one's ego, to have leverage or power over someone, to get into satanic ritual. And of course, depending on who receives that, that could be a good thing from their perspective. It could attract parasitic, low dimensional entities. So, I want to talk about different ways in which we are engaging in sexual activity that is certainly creating a low vibratory situation for ourselves. To begin with, let's start off with masturbation. Now, many of us began the practice of masturbation at a very young age. And some of this is instinctive because of raging hormones, and we get these spontaneous erections, and they're so strong that the urge to release is overwhelming. Now, the way we get into trouble is when we engage in looking at pornographic material to masturbate, to relieve ourselves, because when we do this, the vibratory energy of those that you are looking at having sex that you don't know what they carry, you are becoming one with that energy. Because remember, what we see and perceive is the illusion, but the exchange of energy is very real. So when you orgasm watching porn or looking at a pornographic magazine, you are literally inviting whatever that person that you focus your consciousness onto, you are inviting them and their attachments and everything that they've been with into your vibrational field. And then there are those who fantasize about someone next door or co-worker or whomever. While masturbating, you're fantasizing about having sex with this person. And realize that when you do that, you are again exchanging, taking energy, that person's energy, because when you do that, when you use your mind, the mind is very powerful. When you use your mind to imagine having sex with another being, you are literally taking energy from them. You're taking energy without their permission. Not only is that a form of psychic rape, but you're also creating a situation where you could be really depleting the energy of someone who would never participate in such a thing. Or you could be taking energy from someone who has an attachment, and that attachment, the minute you take energy from you, will be aware of who you are, and will therefore you open yourself up to be again magnetized to a situation that could ultimately become a very unpleasant one. So masturbation is far more than just getting off. Think about that the next time you try to please yourself. Now, the next form of abuse of sexual energy that I would like to talk about is something that's very rampant. It's very common. These sex parties where there are orgies, group sex, threesomes, and all these things. Some of you out there are consciously aware because you are driven by a lower dimensional lustful entity. These lower dimensional entities love these things. As a matter of fact, more than often, the impression is put on the minds of people to engage in these kind of things, so that these entities can feed off of the orgasmic energy and the lustful vibrations that so many people coming together gives off. Again, we come together in a state of lust, in a state where there's mind-altering drugs and alcohol and anything goes and wife swapping and all this kind of stuff. You had better realize that you have certainly opened yourself up to a playground of lower dimensional activity. And some of you guys are conceiving under these circumstances. And as I have stated in previous videos, you are opening yourself up as being a host or portal for the incarnation of lower dimensional entities, not to mention the kind of feed that's going on and the kind of health problems that you are ultimately creating for yourself. Then the next form of the abuse of sexual energy are those of us who are what we would deem sexaholics. Now, we all have our own vices. Some of us overeat, or alcohol, whatever the case may be. But sexaholics are usually in some kind of deep emotional pain, and the sex is being used as a temporary numbing device, pretty much in the same way that we all grab hold to things to make us feel good or to fill an emptiness or void. The unfortunate thing about those who are sexaholics is that after a period of time they lose a sense of reasoning and logic, and they start pushing the envelope. It's almost like someone who's a drug addict and they do crack for a while, and after a while nothing works, and they just start pushing the envelope to get that more intensified high. Someone who is a sexaholic fall prey to dimensional entities. It becomes a vicious cycle, because the more you push the envelope to satisfy that urge, the more attachments that you get, because you're sleeping with more people without discernment. There's usually alcohol involved. There's usually anything goes. A sexaholic many times will have sex with a man, woman. Some have even crossed the line of bestiality. If it doesn't apply to you, don't get offended. I'm just saying in general. And these, again, lower dimensional entities love people like that. And these people find themselves kind of in a vicious cycle, a self-destructive mode. It's almost like you're in a vortex or in a vacuum and you just can't get out, because one problem feeds the other. But if we were to stop and recognize the true consequences of our actions and why we do what we do, we can better make more informative decisions to put in the hard work and pull ourselves out of these situations. Nothing that we do on this earth is irreversible. We can always change when we know better to do better. We have the power within our hands to transmute the energies that we co-create or create for ourselves. We have the power to raise our vibration and become more one with our divine selves, and co-create in love, service to others, and peace and harmony. But what is happening still on this planet is an overwhelming participation in things that are creating a world and individual realities that we really are not happy with. And I'm just here not to judge anybody. I'm just here to help some of you guys to understand how an element of your life could be helping you to create something that you really don't like, because no one has ever told you any differently. And then there are those of you who have the attitude of, well, I'm going to do me and I don't care, and you have that right too. I'm not going to knock you and I'm not going to judge you for it. Again, I'm only sharing information. What resonates, take. What doesn't resonate, you leave behind.